Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to end the video. This is a paid request for Anton. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of reviews, movie reviews, re-reviews, topics, reactions, commentaries, random thoughts, whatever the case may be, video game playthroughs, what have you, feel free to send it. PayPal is usually the best bet. If you do send it on PayPal, make sure to please use the family and friends option. Otherwise, PayPal takes a cut of it. Also, I do have a CashApp and a Patreon because people have asked. Those links are down below in the info box. I will get to them as soon as I can. And Anson and to everyone else, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So Anson wanted me to look at Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World from 2003. Now, I have seen this film before. I remember when I first saw it, I wasn't gung-ho about the film. Watch it again, I kind of feel the same way, but I do appreciate and respect what it was doing. So, directed by Peter Weir, very accomplished director, did Poet Society, I love The Truman Show. I think he only did one more film after this, and then hasn't directed since. So I don't know if he just retired or what the deal was. I don't think this film did that well. And this is a pretty big budgeted film. And was like it cost like 150, but it made like 200 million. Like it didn't do well at all, considering the budget, then the marketing, and movie theaters take a chunk of change. Because I'm sure this was a hit, they would have had a lot more sequels. And I can see why it didn't do well, although I don't think it's a bad film. It stars Russell Crowe as Captain Jack Aubrey. You have Paul Bettany as the surgeon. Those are only two people I recognize in this. It takes place in 1805 during the Napoleonic Wars. And Captain Jack Aubrey and his ship are supposed to be chasing this other ship that seems a bit more to it, where because of its design it could go a bit faster, it could be a bit tougher of a hull to get your cannonballs through. And it's this ship trying to go after that ship as well as dealing with their daily business. And that's the thing, is that it's about a little over 2 hours long. And you don't get a lot of character development or depth. Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany do a good job in their roles. And it's more about the slice of life of how it would have been on these type of ships. Whether it be the intensity of the battles, which were very well done. A lot of practical stuff being utilized. I think they shot for maybe 10 days out on the sea. But then the rest of it, they used like a prop ship, in a controlled environment. But you tell a lot of it, they did as much in camera as they could. When the cannonballs hit, like early on, very good looking shot where Russell Crowe is looking through the fog and they see this glow. And Russell's like, get down! And it's the cannonball coming in. If that cannonball, whatever the armament coming in, and like you see wood splinter everywhere in this rope, and when it hits parts of the ship, people fly back and some people are injured. It's not gory like Braveheart, Mel Gibson type of gore, but it still has a bit of the intensity to really make you feel and how these folks would have had to deal with these kind of situations. Some people die, some people are wounded. It's all like these little details with the way people are dressed, the way they talk with each other in the second language of what they need to do to keep going on the ship. The little bits of sand or whatever it was that Paul Bettany had to do in his surgery station. Again, these little day-to-day life things, like one kid gets hurt on the arm and how they have to prepare to amputate his arm. How some of these men become very superstitious on certain things. How Russell Crowe is adamant to do what he's told for duty, for country, for honor. While Paul Bettany's like, we need to calm down a bit. Let's take a breather. Let's take a breather on this island. You have a little bit of conflicting between the two. How like one guy will go overboard and they're trying to help him, but then we have to make that tough decision. If we keep going, many more people may die, so you gotta make that decision that will cost someone their life. So it's much more of the daily business of being on a ship. Trying to give you a slice of life of this is how it was back in the day, how tough it was, how sometimes dreary it was. There's a point in the film where they don't have much water, it hasn't rained a lot, so it feels like they have all this bad luck. There's this one guy they keep blaming on this bad luck for it. He gets so... Spoilers. He gets so uneasy with the environment, with the people that keep harping on him, and possible threat and harm that may come upon him. They takes it upon himself to take the cannonball, jump off, and go to his watery grave. You get a little bit of Paul Bettany's character where he likes to study the environment and nature. So if there's a certain bud or animal, he's very adamant. And when they get to this island, he really wants to explore, but Russell Crowe's like, no, we don't have time. Okay, we're not here for your hobbies. But they do bond because they like playing music together. So I would say definitely the two of them. Of any characters, they're the most... There's not a lot of complexity, but if there's a close two, it would be the two of them. But that's the thing, for such a lengthy amount of time, you don't get a lot of backstory on the other characters, and it's... A lot of times there's these folks, either I couldn't tell them apart, or... I don't know, I didn't really gel with, a bit personality with these characters. It's kind of, oh yeah, that's the guy that suggested this, or that's the guy who, because he knew someone, they were able to make a model of what the ship was that they're chasing after. Oh, there's the little boy that lost his arm. Like the simplest of defining aspects is the only way I can really describe these folks. And now for some, that may be fine and dandy. For a lot of people, because a lot of people love the film. But just for me, I say it was less of a story and more of a... It's less a story about characters. It's more of, let's show this slice of life of these people and how it was back in the day being on one of these ships. With the best idea in a small talk about ghost ships or superstitious elements. They keep calling this guy Jonah because they think he's bad luck, all this type of stuff. Now Russell Crowe does a great job. He does a very commanding persona that you just see why men would respect this guy. But he's not being like over the top every 5 minutes. Paul Bettany, he's able to talk a little bit to Russell Crowe, maybe try to make him think a little bit more of sense into things. When the film came out, it was sold like an action film, and that was a mistake, because there is action, but it's not action-packed. There's a bit at the beginning of the film. There's a few bits where they're chased, and Russell Crowe shows his ingenuity. For example, they're chased at one point. So let's put this decoy boat and shut our lights off, but put lights on them, on that decoy boat, have it go the other way, so that ship will see lights in the distance and go towards that instead of us. Or let's get our boats in front of our boat and pull it because our rudder is screwed up so we can get into this fog bank and hide. And that was nice to see those kind of tactics being used to show that, how the ingenuity of Russell Crowe and his crew to help them get by and live another day. Granted, part of me is like, if I want to see this type of warfare with more interesting story and characters, I'd rather see like Star Trek 2 or Star Trek in general. Because that's kind of the basis of like Star Trek is you replace the sea with space, you get Star Trek. You replace the space with sea, you get this. And these type of films from way back in the day, and the novels and the books, which inspired Gene Roddenberry and to do this kind of thing. Especially if you look at films like Star Trek 2, where a lot of times it is like warfare between two sailing ships. There just happen to be ships in space, and it's just that they have more like personality. And because I grew up and knew those characters, here is like we're thrust into these characters. It's like I barely know who they are, so it's hard to be like I like Russell Crowe as an actor. I don't mind Paul Bettany, but I don't really know them, so it's like it was kind of hard for me to care. Until eventually, it's like I like these actors enough that I care about those two. But like the rest of the crew, because I barely knew anything about them, I didn't recognize the actors. Like I said, not many of them had like personalities that really spoke out. Like one barely talked, and at one point Paul Bettany does little brain surgery on him, and then he talks a little bit more, mainly superstitious stuff. Like I said, the boy lost his arm. He likes to read. He's pretty nice to the guy that people call Jonah, this guy named Hallam. But again, there's very little stuff there, little meat to the matter for me to really gravitate as a story towards this film. Like I said, it's not an action-packed movie. Like I see, you have a little bit at the beginning, one or two moments where they're chased, but they're able to get away by using tactics. And then kind of a lull where, like I said, they get to this island, they're going to have some R&R, but then they're gotta be on the brink again. There's a storm, they lose a man overboard, there's not much rain, there's an insubordination, so they gotta whip a guy to keep the peace. And then this one guy, like they see this bird fly, and this one guy is being so stupid, he shoots, and he actually shoots Paul Bettany. And then Russell Crowe, we see that he's been pushing to chase after this other ship. He already had one guy die going overboard. He already had one other guy he gave a pep talk to, but obviously wasn't enough because the guy jumped over and ended his life. He now doesn't want his friend to die, so they go back to the island so that he could do surgery on himself and fix himself up. I do like the bit of dialogue where Paul Bettany thanks him, and Russell Crowe goes, "Well, you know what? How about you name a shrub after me? Hard and prickly. Like, hard to eradicate and prickly." That was the line. "You want to pay me back? You name a shrub after me. One that's prickly and hard to eradicate." And like I said, that's why I wish I could have seen more, know more about Russell Crowe's character, and more about Paul Bettany's character. Or have it solely focus on them. Because when it comes to the crew members, like, I get it, it's showing kind of the doldrums are working on there, having to sand the floor, clean the floor, having to fix the mast. I get that. I guess it depends how you care about that life. I don't care about the seas in terms of I never want to be on a damn boat. I don't give a shit about being on a boat unless it's Jaws. As in, I love that movie. I love watching them on the boat. That's the thing. Okay, that's the difference. Like Jaws, I really get to know those characters. So when they're on the boat, they're three to be pretty fully realized characters. They each have their uniqueness, and I'm able to really hone in on each of their stories, what they want, what they're looking for, what they're trying to get out of this, the way they talk with each other, the dialogue they talk with each other. So that journey I'm really honed in and focused on. I really love I love the whole second half of Jaws, one of my favorite films ever, and that seaworthy journey that they go against the shark. Here, I don't really feel that way with the characters, but I appreciate the production value. I appreciate what Peter Weir was doing in terms of having a lot of it in camera, having the costumes and everything look try to be as authentic as possible. Even the third act, when, and spoilers, they pretend to be a whaling ship. They get close enough, inspired by one of the buds Paul Bettany finds, where it's just a stick bud. So wait, if it could look like a stick, we could look like a whaling ship. We get close enough where we fire, and pieces of the boat are blasted up, and they get in, and they have this sword fight. Now, again, it's not as violent as Braveheart. Part of me wishes it was that, because it's trying to be so authentic, so realistic. Why not just go that extra mile? I guess, to be fair, I don't know what it was rated. What was the rating for this film? Let me see. Master and Commander. Like, was it PG-13 or R? Like I said, I don't think it's a bad PG-13. So I guess they thought with that big of a budget, with that long of a running time, because it is over 2 hours, like, we can't have it R-rated. Granted, Braveheart and Gladiator, like, those were R-rated, those were lengthy. Joker, I mean, that's more popular character. But I guess 20th Century Fox, and then production companies, Miramax, Universal Pictures. Well, so Miramax Universal was the production company, but 20th Century Fox distributed it. But I guess with $150 million budget, they're a bit iffy on making this a R-rated affair. Because even at PG-13, it didn't do the best. And now that I have this up, the box office was $118 million in the U.S. Wait, it was... I'm trying to see how much it made in the U.S. It grossed $212 million globally. Now, if a film costs $150 million, yeah, I think it's got to make at least double to maybe break even, and it did not even do that. See, how much did it make in the U.S.? That's what I want to know. Because I'm just curious now. I got my phone here. $93 million in the U.S. on a $150 million budget. But it has a 7.5 on IMDb. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Sound Editing, Best Art Direction, Costume Design. It won for Best Cinematography, Best Sound Editing. But it was nominated for a lot of Oscars. Peter Weir says, I think it did well-ish at the box office. Not really. It didn't generate that monstrous rapid income that provokes a sequel. In 2009, Russell Crowe claimed he was in an interview that he was in negotiations for a sequel based on the 11th book, The Reverse of the Medal. 2010, Russell Crowe launched an appeal on Twitter to get the sequel made. If you want a sequel, I suggest you email Tom Rothman at Fox and let him know your thoughts. One critic's like, well, how come Pirates of the Caribbean got a franchise? Well, number one, I like that first film a lot more than this one. And yeah, that's what I mean, like, that one, like, this one's much more realistic, but I like Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of Black Pearl more because those characters, those personalities, that sense of excitement was just more appealing to me. I think for a lot of people it did. Not that this is a bad film, but that one, I really like the characters in that. And I barely remember, I haven't seen most of the sequels, because I don't think it needed sequels. I think one film was good enough, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure on that. But yeah, the finale, when they're having all these action scenes where they're sword fighting, because they gotta hide it with the PG-13 rating, because everything else is supposed to be very authentic. It's kind of like, I kind of wish they pushed with an R rating because it's trying to be a much more serious affair. Like I didn't like Braveheart, even the Patriot, among other films. I might we'll just go the full go forward to the fullest of your abilities to make it. But like I said, with that budget, they didn't want to take a chance on an R rated. Like I said, even PG-13 it didn't do that well. So I'm sure with an R rating it would have done even less business. At least that's the assumption. And it's a good assumption. So sometimes the sword bits, it was a bit, not shaky, but a bit chaotic. Which makes sense because of all the people converging with all the swords going on. It wasn't bad. Like, it's weird to say entertaining enough. They take the ship. He's given the French captain's sword. Then as they leave, they find out that the guy lied. So the captain, I guess they still have the ship because all the other people are on there, but the captain lied, so he's still hiding down the bowels. So at the end of the movie, they still gotta go get to that ship again, which, I don't know. The fact that they still have to get to that ship again made it seem, I don't know, I just would have rather had a more concrete ending. But I do like the little bit between Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany, where Paul Bettany's, he doesn't get to explore the island again, as Russell Crowe goes, well, those birds, you say they don't fly, right? Well, they're not going anywhere. So I can see a little bit of that Captain Kirk type of thing with Russell Crowe's character, which is a good thing. Like I said, if Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany had a bit more room to breathe in terms of characters, and to really showcase their, what, before they got on this ship, what pertained them to get onto the ship in the first place, how, showing a bit of how long they've known each other, them getting to know the crew didn't know their captain, a little bit of the beginnings, to really give us a foot in. This feels like I'm in a sequel to a film that... It feels like I'm in a sequel, but there was never a first film made of this. Does that make sense? Like, I walked into a sequel, so these characters are already supposedly established, but I didn't get to see that establishment. So that's why I was a bit... Even watching it again, I'm like, okay, it's expected to be all of a sudden to care about these characters. I'm like, why? I think this is what bothered me the most. Because, again, there are times where things are a lull and they die down, and I'm like, okay, I like these two because I like these two actors, but I appreciate what it's trying to do. I said I don't think it's a bad film. I think some of the action scenes are nicely handled in terms of having these ships on the sea. The special effects are very capable compared to films of that era of 2003. It's not a film I would ever see again, but I get people's appeal, whereas it's definitely a big ode to honor and duty and country and serious fare that you definitely don't see a lot nowadays. It's just not a film I would go rewatch a whole lot, and if I do, I'll just go watch, Star Trek or things of that nature. Because I at least get to know more of the characters, or because there's been so many. And maybe this is the thing, if this became a series, and throughout the series we get to know all the characters, like Star Trek the Motion Picture. If you take that film by itself, true, you don't know much of the characters in that movie. Because there's a lot of staring at special effects. I still love Star Trek the Motion Picture. I do love that movie. But a lot of people could say it's very boring, and there's not a lot of depth. I guess if you think of Deckard and Percy Kambata's character. But, and they have a bit of lovey-dovey stuff, but for me, because I watched the TV show Star Trek, all that stuff's in my head going into this. So it's not the film filling in those blanks of character development. It's all these years of seeing the original Star Trek show, all these episodes, their personalities, how they work together, transplanting that into the film. That does help. So maybe if this had a series of films where we see the development, we see how they talked and their banter, and then when I watch this, it's like that could be taken into mind in playing with the characters, but that's not the case. There was just one film and one film only. Again, that's just the way I looked into it. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's a well-made film. Just not a film I would gravitate towards watching again or owning in my collection. But is it a good film? Yes, I do think so. With that said, thanks for watching. Thanks once again to Anton. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.